Listen. All right, so we have the beautiful Vallin Bingley here, mother of 6. Vallin, let me introduce DVLA for those who have not heard of.
Oh, no, mother of 4. It's 6 of us. We only got 4 right now.
Right, family of 6.
6.
Or 4 so far. I'm joking. No,
it's true. So far.
so yeah, see, I could be talking something into existence.
Right, exactly. That's what you do.
No, all right, so peace family. My name is Deneen Tyler. I am one of the co-creators of Dreamers Virtual Learning Virtual Learning Academy. This is Ryan with the mask on, doing her homeschool.
Yes. Hey guys. Today's martial arts day.
Yeah, so sometimes that's how it looks. But we are here with Vallin Bingley, and we are going to talk a little bit about homeschooling our way. Ryan and I so we started a homeschooling co-op, which primarily targets pre-K and kindergarten for right now, but we're looking to expand to higher grade levels. And our homeschooling co-op specifically targets those who are interested in both the academics of homeschooling, but then also just integrating Afrocentric practices and self-identity into the everyday learning process as well. So we started a homeschooling co-op a few months ago, and we are building out this platform. And we thought that the best way to really like connect with our population and those that we want to serve is to bring in homeschooling mommies from all walks of life, specifically the homeschooling mommies of color who have not historically been presented or represented in, what do we call this? The limelight, I guess, or in the forefront. So we really wanted to call on some beautiful souls who have been doing this, parents of color, mommies, daddies of color, homeschoolers before COVID, before pandemic, but those who were into homeschooling way before this shift happened. And so Vallin answered the call, and I don't even know how you got to, how you saw the invitation or what. You'll have to, how did you?
So you had shared it in one of the already homeschooler groups. And I was like, oh, okay, let me reach out and ask for some more information. So I was really excited because I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yes. You were one of the first 3 people to jump on, and I was like, blessings. So we are here with Vallin. I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor, Vallin, because I want you to introduce yourself. And I really want you just to get into like how long you've been homeschooling, what do we need to know? Like, just take your time and let us know your journey.
Awesome. Okay. So as she said, my name is Vallin Bingley. I have been a homeschooler for 9 years. A lot of people's homeschool story starts with their child being in school and then pulling them out. But mine starts with I never sent my child to school. Right. And I never sent him to school because we were just talking about this earlier, that when it came to schooling, I was an honor roll student my whole school career. In college, I was an honor roll student. I was an excellent student. I've always been an excellent student because I love learning. Like learning has always been my thing. So my background is in education, specializing in English as a second language because I love to teach students. That was just what I wanted to do until I started to both volunteer, work in the schools, public schools, or be with teachers. And I realized I would never want to teach in this environment. More so because not only did I feel restricted as a student when I was in that environment, because I was a very creative mind, but also that I felt restricted when I was teaching those children or caring for those children in that environment, because I didn't feel like I was able to really tap into their greatness.
No, it's too many. It's too many
of them.
Restrictions.
And it's too many restrictions.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just like, this is, it was like, but this is my passion. What is this? And then when I have my son, and my son, it was just like, well, he's turning 3 years old. And I'm like,
what are we going to do with him?
I can take my passion and I can teach him. And now I thought to myself, and now said, my mother raised me in a daycare. She had a family daycare for 27, 28 years. My whole life, I was around other children and her teaching us. She taught me how to read, write, and everything by the time I was 2.5. I was already writing at 3. I was already reading at 3.5. So learning was just like, it was like, everything was firing off when I was little. So it was very easy for my mother to teach me because I love to learn.
Yeah.
But when my son turned 3, I was like, well, I'm home with him. And it's time for me to implement the same thing. So some people will start homeschooling when the child turns school age, which is anywhere from 5 to 8, depending upon what state you live
Right.
But me, it was like, as long as he's here, we can always get the foundational work.
Learning can start at any level.
Exactly. And prior to that, he was already, when I was working, he was with my mother in her daycare. So he was already learning everything she was teaching me.
Soaking in all that.
Right. So when he came home at 3, I was like, well, there's no reason to stop. And that's why he officially started like kindergarten work at 3 years old.
I love that.
And the funny thing is, it was a thought to me like, oh, I can homeschool, but it was just like a thought.
Yeah.
It wasn't like something that I really thought was real, because I didn't know anybody around me. But what had happened was that I had taken him to the preschool just so that was like an after school program. And then I had taken him to the actual school in the district that I lived in, because you have to go to the school's district school. And I lived in New York.
Okay,
so
I was about to ask you where you live.
Yeah, we lived in New York. Now, New York is a very high priority state. Like, it's a lot of paperwork to prepare for homeschooling. It's not like here where I'm at in Virginia.
I'm about to say, listen, I announced it in a letter and it was done. That was it.
In New York, you got to do a quarterly report every 3 months. You have to apply for a Metro card for the children. You have to report attendance. You have to, like, there's a whole nother view of how homeschooling works in New York. And in New York, the year that he was 5 was the first year, was the last year that it was not a requirement to start school. So he could have or he couldn't. But I decided to, because the following year they started at 5 years old. You have to be in kindergarten. So for me, I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. But when I took him to the district school and I was speaking to the teachers and I was showing his notebook, like, oh, this is what we did. They were like, this is not going to work for him. And I was like, well, why? Like, he needs to go to school. And they're like, well, these kids can barely say their name, let alone spell it. Like, they don't know.
He was accelerated.
And he's ahead of this. So it's going to be very difficult for him to fit in here. And I didn't feel like he was emotionally prepared for first grade. I knew, and that was similar to how I was. I was an extremely excellent academic, but emotionally I was not prepared for a higher level grade. And that's why my mother kept me in kindergarten and first grade, but I wasn't thriving there because I already knew the work.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, okay. And so the teacher, she like whispered to me, like, oh, you could homeschool him. And it was a thought that I had years before, but I was like, why is it a secret? And
that's
apparently
a dirty word.
Right. And I mean, she's a teacher in the school, so she's probably like, I'm probably not going to say stuff like this.
Conflict of interest, right? She's taking.
But she said you could possibly homeschool him, and I thought about it. I said okay, and I went home and I decided I was going to do a research. And because it wasn't required for him to go that year, I figured, let me get my feet wet. I can just register him this year, do the paperwork, figure it out, get good at it. And in my time first grade, then I would already know.
Right.
So that's what I did. But what I was most concerned about was, one, how intricate the requirements would be, how intricate it would be to submit this information, and what are all the steps. And then the next thing I was concerned about, I was like, well, how long will I be doing this?
Yes.
And I think every homeschooler starts with like, right. Every homeschooler starts like, okay, I'm doing this, but like, is this forever? You know, so I was very, very like, at that point, it was just like, we're living in New York. I'm not sending him to any of these schools. I'm telling you, I'm going to homeschool him. And after I got the paperwork done and everything was cleared, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. This is fine. And then I realized, like, the next year came and I was like, well, I'm just going to reinstate and do the same thing again. And then the next year came and we relocated to Virginia. And I was just like, yeah.
It's super easy.
This is super, right? Because Virginia is a super ezy state. Super simple. Yeah. I was like, this is it. This is it. So I did it. It was a homeschool environment. And there were women, women that were just amazing, because when I first came here, I knew no one. And so one lady, she like welcomed me in, and we decided to start like a little homeschool group of other African-American moms. And it started to work out that we was having support and being able to share things and share skills. And at the time, all of our kids were really little. They were all like, the younger ones were like 2, 3, and 4, and the older ones were like 8 and 7. So now all our kids are like 12 and 13 and 14, because it's been like 5, 6 years now. But when we came, it was such a breath of fresh air, because in New York, I did not have the support. Yeah. And I didn't have anybody around me. And I had a lot of people saying, well, you should just send him to school, Vallin. Just send. And I'm like, no. And I want to say this to all mothers and fathers, but let them know that when you have a tug on your heart and you're being told to do something for your child, You have to trust that
Trust
instinct.
that intuition.
Because it's God speaking to your spirit and telling you this is what's right. And anytime you try to deter from that and like go the opposite way, that's when things don't go right. That's when you end up in situations you don't want to be in. Your child ends up in situations you don't want them to be in. And then you start to regret your decision.
Not listening.
Not listening.
Because you knew, because part of you knew, you felt it, but you let like outside
entities. And that's the thing. Everybody has, and that's the thing. Like what I do, like aside from homeschooling, I do mindset and motherhood mindset work with mothers, and I coach them. And the truth is, it's like you have to trust that you know, and all the desires that you have for your family and your children, you have to trust that they are valid, they are true, and they were put into you. They were downloaded into you for a reason.
Parents have a specific instinct for their offspring.
Right.
Mothers for certain.
It's just there. And you have to trust it and know that when you're making these decisions, even when it's a little bit of a struggle, sometimes they're going to be a challenge. Sometimes it's going to be, uncomfortable, but it's for the betterment of not only yourself, but your family. And you have to trust that, because yes, it's easy to say, let me just put my child in school and let them do all the things.
Yeah.
But that is not it. But the thing about it is that you're taking your hands off the most important time of your child's life.
Yeah.
And handing it over to someone else and trusting that they have the best interest of your child. And that's not to say that they don't, but I'm sorry, you cannot focus on 30 children.
It's a toss-up. Who gets the attention? Who gets the nurturing? Who gets it's a toss-up.
And it's not necessarily the teacher's fault. I will never blame the teacher. Like I said, I went into the system wanting to be a teacher.
Yeah, the system
can't be their fault. It's the truth that it does not work for them as teachers, and it does not work for the students.
It does not.
Too many children.
It is. You're right.
And children, especially in the lower grades, the elementary school grades and preschooling, they need a certain level of nurturing and foundational work. They need proper training for their foundation so they can thrive in the middle school and high school realm. And most of those children are not getting those things in those first 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, definitely not.
And so because of that, they're not thriving in middle school. And they're absolutely not thriving in high school. Half of them are dropping out.
Like they could be.
Exactly.
And like they could be.
All they do is push them through. Like by the time they get to high school, they just pushing.
They're socially promoting them or something like that.
Yes. Yes. And it's because we have to understand that even though it may seem like, well, I'm not a teacher. No, you're your child's first teacher.
Yeah.
You will always be your child's first teacher.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents don't trust that they're capable of teaching their children.
And you know what, Vallin, it feels like we've been disempowered. We've been encouraged to send our children to other people who have degree. They're more expert. They have degrees. They have,
I am so for academics. I appreciate people who have multiple degrees and do all the things I do. The credentials are beautiful. The truth is, no one will ever know your child the way you do.
No one.
And when you truly tap into your child's strengths, you're able to see them flourish. Yeah. And so like from how I teach my children, I don't teach them from their weaknesses. In the school system, you'll see that, they're failing in math. Now you need to go to tutoring 25 times a week. And now you need to do this. And that, instead of saying, wow, okay, well, this child is not great at math. So what are they great at? Yeah, they're great at reading. So let's incorporate maybe they're great at art. Let's incorporate their math into their art. Yes. Let's foster their strength.
Yes.
And allow for their challenges to be strengthened. Because when you do it from that model, the child doesn't even realize that their weakness is a part of the lesson.
Exactly.
Because all they're focusing on is their strength. You're an amazing artist. You're excellent at reading. Look, you tell stories so well. You're such a good actor. All those things matter. And when you teach children from a place of their strength, you allow them to foster their challenges and you better them. And then all of a sudden, the challenges aren't challenges anymore.
Yeah.
And you give them the opportunity to work with their younger siblings and supporting them. So it gives them this feeling of, I'm needed. I'm valued. I matter in this environment.
Community and social and community, especially when you do have siblings. Some of us don't have, I have one. And so we have to join a community to get social. But for you have your class.
Yes, I have 4 children. My children are 12, 7, 4, and 1. My 1-year-old, she literally last night, she got off first of all, she threw a fit because she wanted to take her diaper off. I'm like, what do you want to do this for? And it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, you just woke up. What are you doing?
Be free, liberated.
She woke up. I told her, I said, no, you don't need to take your diaper off. Well, she took it off anyway. She jumped off the bed, went to the bathroom. So I followed her. She got on the toilet and she peed.
Already.
And I was like, mind you, we have not potty trained this child. So the fact that, and then she asked for tissue. So I gave her tissue. She's going to wipe herself. I was like, who do you think you are?
More is caught than taught, though. Like,
Right.
they see it and they're mimicking what they see us doing.
And I'm telling you, she has 3 older siblings and she's different by far because she has 3 older siblings, but she also has an older sister. You know, my first daughter didn't have an older sister. She just had 2 brothers. So now the little one, she has an older sister. She's got 2 big brothers and she's seeing all the things they do and she's just taking it in. And that's why I want to tell parents, like, you're new to homeschooling, but understand how much your children learn from just watching you.
Yeah.
How you live your life matters because your children are watching and they're taking it in. And the more they're able to take it in, they're like, oh, I can apply that to my life.
Exactly.
So when you show up confidently saying, I know what's best for us and I know how this is going to work. And so we're going to work together, then they can show up confidently in the things that they do because they trust themselves. If you don't trust yourself, you don't give your children the leeway to trust themselves.
That is a huge, huge point that you are making. Before we leave, definitely let people know how they can get in touch with you for this motherhood mindfulness. Because I think the empowered parent makes creates an empowered child and student.
It definitely does. And it allows them to weed out the voices of others because every mother is going to parent differently.
Everyone.
And the one thing I would say, the one thing that I work on often is inserting your womanhood into your motherhood.
Okay.
Every woman is different. Her personality, the things she loves, the things she enjoys, the things that make her heart sing. That's important to incorporate into your mothering and into your teaching because it allows for your children to see you in your most authentic self. Yes. And when they see mommy like so excited about something, then it gives them leeway to say, oh my God, I get to be so excited about things too. And it may not be things that mommy enjoys, but the fact that I can respect what she enjoys and she can respect what I enjoy. You know what I mean?
That's a good relationship.
That is what that relationship looks like in homeschooling. And it allows for it. So that's the thing. That's why it's homeschooling the way you homeschool. Yeah. Because like I have quails, I have chickens, we have rabbits, and we have fish. We have a whole little homestead.
A farm.
And I love it. Like, this is what I love. And my husband's just like, sure, you want another chicken? Get another chicken. He doesn't care. But that's what I love. And so our learning encompasses animal husbandry.
Yeah.
So we talk about, like, we have chickens and quails. We talk about what yesterday we talked about in comparison and contrast of chickens and quails, their needs, how they live, how they eat, the things that they do. Even though they're both birds, they have different needs in animal husbandry. We talk about our rabbits and the purpose of the rabbits. Like, we have rabbits and we use their manure for our garden and for anything that we grow.
And I love this because I feel like even though the kids would learn about these animals in school, they may not go into the depth of learning and really experiencing it, like an embodied experience of learning it. Like, so I love that you, like, I don't know, you incorporate everyday stuff
into their learning. And the one thing I would love to tell the parents is that from a teacher standpoint, you talk about differentiation, and you differentiate learning when it's a group of children and they may be at different learning levels or they may be different ages.
I'm about to ask you about that.
So when I teach my children, I always teach my children from the top down. So the oldest child down. So depending upon what the oldest child is learning, I'm able to take that lesson and break it down for a 7-year-old.
Modify it. Yeah.
So for an 8-year-old, for for an 8-year-old who's a 7-year-old who is in 3rd grade, for a 4-year-old who's in kindergarten, and then for my 1-year-old. Brilliant. And so when you do it that way, because one thing, you want to make sure your oldest child is getting everything they need academically.
Yes.
So when you take their curriculum and look at it, you can break it down into smaller pieces for the younger children, which means they're learning on their level. They're also getting a snapshot into what they will be learning when they get to that age.
Yeah.
But it's going to be so much easier for them to get there. And they're even able to skip grades eventually because so much of their learning has already been tailored to what the older child is learning.
Exactly. They just go ride the stream up. Right. So let's talk really quickly, because that was really helpful to tell us sort of like how to homeschool various ages and grade levels, right? How about curriculum? What tips or insight do you have regarding how you chose curriculum? How did you choose what curriculum to use?
When I originally started homeschooling, of course, I did all the curriculum Googling. We all do that. We did all the Googling for curriculum. We got to get that. Until I realized the easiest way to figure out what you want your children to learn is to figure out, like, what do you want them to learn? Ask yourself,
have clarity for yourself.
I want
Clarity.
them to learn?
Yes.
Right. Of course, we all want them to read and we all want them to know basic math. Of course.
Period.
Okay.
Basic.
But now we need to look into what do you truly want your child to read and that learn, and then you need to prioritize that.
Yeah.
And what I really like to focus on is what do they enjoy? And you can do that by assessing them, by watching them. So you give them opportunities. So before you decide to go spend $350 on a course or on a curriculum or anything, especially an extracurricular activity, there's so many resources like OutSchool or Udemy, YouTube. There's so many different opportunities for you to create and you may have to pull them, but create a playlist and let the child work through it. And if they're saying, Mommy, I really love this, then you can say, now I know what they're really interested in. Then I can go and invest in that. And that's a way to budget in your homeschooling as well, because you're not wasting your money on things that they don't really like, and you're using free or low cost resources so that they're able to figure out what things they enjoy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Do you ever check to see what the public school system regs are, just to make sure that they are?
Yeah, so that's a really good place to start. What I would say at the beginning of every year, like for here, Virginia, they have the SOLs, the standard, learning. So grab the SOL for your child's grade level and then look through it. I mean, these are things, and the truth is, half of the things that are on that list are things you can learn literally in the kitchen, in the living room.
Yes.
It's not even like none of it is like, oh, you need a whole full curriculum. It really isn't. Like, it really isn't. Like, it just really isn't.
They make it like learning takes hours and days.
Right, and it doesn't. It doesn't.
They just dragging the time out.
But looking at it and assessing it, okay, this is where my child is. This is where they need to be, and this is where this is what I need to do. I think the SOL is an excellent benchmark, because depending upon what your goal is, and that's another thing when it comes to homeschooling, you want to have a vision and a goal. Yes. What is your vision and your goal for your child? And each child is going to be different. My 4-year-old, she is a severe creative. She loves painting. Ever since she was 1 and 2 years old, she likes me to turn violins on, turn harps on, and she needs to paint. And she paints so creatively, like just the way she throws colors together and everything. And I'm like, girl, what is this? But that's the only time she's calm, collected, chill, fine, whatever. So we use that to do her writing of her letters and her numbers and her shit.
Because it is drawing.
And she loves it. If we don't do it on, let's say, on paper, on the easel, then like if I have a piece of wood or construction paper, or if I have cardboard, I let her paint on that. I allow her to do marker boards with different colors. We do that. Like if I need you to write 2 number 6s with the color blue, she writes. There you go. Because and then it's also showing her multiplication. 2 times 6.
Yes.
You see? And she's 4.
And following instructions, which is also a requirement.
Right. So being able to help her follow instructions and allow for her to be hands-on completely with her learning, but we're not sitting with a piece of paper at the table. We're on the floor. We're in the backyard. We're doing easel.
Do you homeschool at different times, Vallin, or are they all in the same class time, but they're doing different things?
Well, I have my 12-year-old and my 7-year-old are now very independent when it comes to their learning. So they know that at a certain time, okay, I get up, I do my breakfast. Like we have a whole routine of how they get their food and everything. Is all their stations for everything. Yes. I created my kitchen counter is literally like, the hotel, when they say to come down for complimentary breakfast.
Yes, I love
like
those
that.
too.
It's got the coffee station here. It's got the basket for the fruit.
It has Belgian waffles.
The whole cereal thing where you turn it. They got the whole setup.
Belgian waffles. Do they have?
Yeah, they got the whole setup in the kitchen, so they know what they can do. They got an air fryer in the kitchen. The 7-year-old and the 12-year-old know how to use the air fryer.
I heard about those.
Yeah, they can. So they know how to do these things without me. So they're able to do breakfast. So usually they're able to do breakfast. I can say 2 times in a week I'll make breakfast. The other days of the week they usually are able to do their breakfast by themselves. Lunch and dinner is usually
development.
Right. And so lunch and dinner is usually when I actually will make something and cook for them. But other than that, they're able to handle those things. And the 12-year-old, he knows right when to, to get to his work. He sits down, he does it, no problem. There's certain days a week, like he is in a geography class that is online.
Okay.
So that's once a week on Thursdays at like 12 noon. So he knows I got to be ready at noon. He has homework for that class too.
Yeah.
So he knows, and which is also something I love because it allows for him to understand, like, yeah, I'm your teacher, but then when you do go out and branch out, there'll be other people that teach you.
Other people will educate you.
You need to know how to conduct yourself, behave, and how to take in the information, how to get the assignment done. And so that's teaching him that. And my other two, my little girl, she has an art class. And my other little boy, he has an art class.
Yes.
So he has art classes on Mondays. And my oldest son, he loves to cook. So he has a quick bites class. He has a class on Tuesdays where he cooks. So he actually made some really great granola the other day. Yeah, I think it was this Tuesday. So I had put that granola in my yogurt today. I was like, well, this is good. And he made some cookie dough. He made sugar cookies last week, which is still in the freezer. So I was like, we're going to make some of those today.
I love it.
But yeah, so giving us the opportunity. Right. Yep. I'm able to look at the schedule, plug in where and that's what I told myself. I'm like, I can do 3 days a week where they're all doing something they love, but never one day a week will they all be doing like an online class or something.
Okay. Okay.
I make sure I spread it out. And when it comes to their learning, my 7-year-old, he does really well on his own unless it becomes a little intricate. Now he's 7, but he's in 3rd grade. So he's a grade ahead. So some of the work is a little more challenging. And he has to think a little harder and work a little harder. So then it gives me the opportunity to help him out between him and my 4-year-old. And the 1-year-old, the good thing about it is my husband, he is a trucker. So he comes home mid-afternoon, and that's around the time that the little baby is napping. So he's able to be with her, and I'm able to move around. And when we do activities in the earlier day, the 4 and the 1-year-old, they kind of do the same ABCs, numbers, colors, shapes, artwork. You know, my little girl, she loves doing finger painting. So I usually do like paint inside of a Ziploc bag and then let her do all of that.
Ooh.
So I put the paper, like the construction paper inside the Ziploc bag, and I put little drops of paint and then I zip it up. Then she's able to manipulate and make it. And then she has an art picture.
I love it.
And she can do that without me being around. So I can leave her with it. And so I zip it up and I use the tape on it. Yeah, zip it up. I put the tape on it on the edge, and I usually leave her, let her go do what she's doing so that I can focus on her sister.
I love that activity, but I like also the way that you are keeping them preoccupied with something meaningful, not just like busy work.
And so whatever they're learning, whatever, like if we do math, we always do math at the same time. We're all doing math.
Good.
So that also doesn't have to take me out of my mindset. Like, you know, if I'm focusing on math for an algebra question or geometry for my 12-year-old, I don't want to have to come out of math and think about letters for my 4-year-old. So we're all doing math. So I usually do like basins for her. So I have like, I'll take something like a pot, and we'll have like oranges or grapes or whatever fruit. And I'll have her take the tongs and put them in a pot. Then I'm asking her like 10 subtract 3, put 3 over here. How many are left?
Math happens in the kitchen, I hear.
Right. So she's in there doing that, and she's able to count them. The little baby, she's either doing a painting project or she's doing something else but usually, like if we're doing like, let's say we're working on a number 25 for my 4-year-old, or my little one, I'll have 25 on her art project, and she's painting the number 25. Why? Because it's getting her to visually see what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly.
So even though she is 25 and she's only 1, she's seeing 25. She's hearing mommy say 25. She's seeing her little sister do 25.
You can recognize it by
sight. She's recognizing numbers.
Yes.
And she's recognizing she's seeing that, oh, this is what we're all doing.
Yes.
So that's how I incorporate all of them into my learning, but at the same time, they're all getting what they individually need on their level.
I love it. All right, so a couple more questions, and we are going to have to wrap it up soon because I don't want to hold people, but I so want to hear all of this. So I'm trying to be mindful of time, but I legitimately want to hear all of it. But look,
man, I've been waiting.
Listen.
Because like, you know, I have 4 boys, and they're kind of, well, no, MJ's 5, the twins are 2, and I see it's 6 months. So I've been having these same questions. Cause I'm like, all right, she has 4, I have 4. How do I navigate this?
Yes.
And so like, even though y'all don't hear me, trust me, I'm soaking everything up.
I love it.
When you see the thing about 5 and 2-year-olds, they're so close. And I say 5 and 2 because my kids are all 3 years apart. So my first 2 are 5 years apart, but all of my first 3 kids are all in June. Okay. So they're all June 14th, June 8th, and June 26th. And then my little baby, her birthday is in August. So her birthday is August 9th. But all in my last 3 younger ones, they're all 3 years apart, and my first 2 are 5 years apart. So in that age range, that's why I really like the 3 years apart. It allows for them to be far enough apart, but close enough together. So when you're teaching lessons, when you're teaching lessons, it becomes a lot easier because they're kind of learning the same thing. Yeah. And the younger one kind of just starts to go like full speed ahead because they're with the older sibling and they start to learn really quick.
I bet.
So, and I tell people, like, do not discredit a child's mind. Like, yes, she's like, my daughter's 1, but the fact of the matter is that 95% of the things that a lot of people wouldn't expect their 1-year-old can do, if they're seeing a 4, 7, and 12-year-old do it, or any other child around them, they're going to want to do it and they're going to get good at it.
And they are capable of doing it. I like to tell people, because I'm into, so I have some credentials in in psychology and human development and things like that. So I like to tell people, like, within the first 6 years of a child's life, they can learn multiple languages and speak them fluently as if it is their
own language.
It is their cradle language. So don't think that they are sitting there. They don't need you to talk to them. They don't need you to do anything because they're not learning and growing. They're developing, you know. So
it's incredible how their brains work. And that's why I say, you know, tap into the things they love and insert the things you would like them to learn.
There you go.
Expose if you tap into what they like and say, here, and this is what I want you to learn, that it won't even dawn on them that you're teaching them something that they weren't interested in. It's because they're doing what they love. And a lot of times I think parents feel like, oh, no, there's a certain way to do it. Like, no, the way to do it is to look at what your child thrives in. And allow for them to thrive in that by inserting what you would like them to learn in the training you would like them to have. And that's all that matters. Some people may be super, like, you know, musicians in their house. They love music. Everybody plays an instrument. That's great. Some people may be super academic. So like both of your parents went to like a really prestigious school, and whatever it is you want for your child, you can insert that into them as a homeschooler.
Yeah, you can create the culture for it. And I think that's what a lot of people don't trust themselves to do. I think they have they don't have any examples of people who've done it, or they don't have that experience. So
it's scary. It is scary.
It is. Let's be real. It is, right?
It's scary because when you don't have any support, I mean, when I had no support, no one was around, there was days that I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, who told you to do this? Until I got that wake-up call every 2 seconds, like, I did. God said, I did. I said so. You know, get it together. You're going to keep going. And now I'm looking at him. He's going on 13 soon. And I'm like, geez, so much has happened between them. But he's been able to experience so many things. Like, he's been at different universities. He's sat with different, you know, college students and on different programs. And it's just so many things that he would have never had as an experience had he just gone to regular school.
And that's it.
And for me, it's just like, I've given him the opportunity to thrive in his skills and thrive in the things that he's great in without having to put him in a box to restrain those things. And by still pouring into him and giving him the morals, the ethics, the values, and the things that I felt that was most powerful in our family, in the tone of our family, and, you know, in the mission of our family, what we want for him. And I think that when you do that in an early place, in an early stage, when you release them into society,
they are so rooted.
They're so rooted into who they are that nothing shakes them.
And that's what I want for my little one. I'm like, I don't mind her going out to learn. Let me tell you this, Mommy's going to get tired of being your only teacher. I will send you out, therefore, to go and do the thing. But I don't want your foundation to be other people telling you who you are. I want your people who love you and the people who birthed you and created you to help you to create your identity by paying attention to you. You know, I want that.
And that's the one thing that I feel is most important about homeschooling is your perspective.
Yes.
You know, I know that the pandemic is scary and I know it's overwhelming. I know a lot of parents are working from home.
Right.
But the idea that homeschooling them or having the responsibility of teaching your child is such a load, it's such a bother. It's like, no, it's actually a luxury. It's a beautiful thing because it allows for you to see your child every day and to view them at their worst and at their best.
Yeah.
And to fine tune the areas that need to be fine tuned so that they can thrive in who they are.
Yeah.
And every time you see that they're like my son, he was playing a video game. I know my oldest, I know him so well. Like he was playing a video game. And I had told him, I was like, well, you're not supposed to be in a video game today or whatever the case may have been, but he was. So I was like, okay, fine. But he like, how do you always know me so well? Because I was like, he was being a little like grumpy and stuff. And I was like, what's this? Like, he's usually a very jolly, happy, silly person. He's very silly.
He was
super silly. But I was like, why are you grumpy? I was like, first of all, were you playing a game? I'm just gonna let you answer.
Even though I know the answer.
Right. And he's like, and I was like, and what game were you playing? Because you could, and I can tell this as well. Parents need to understand that video games and certain technology, it shifts your children's personality and it affects their brain.
It shifts their energy so
right. And it affects their brain. And it's very important to be able to pick up on that and understand what they're watching, what they're doing, how they're doing it, so you can know how to allow for it. It's not to say that they can't do certain things. It's that it needs to be boundaries around it.
And boundaries.
Because if there aren't, then you will see that, like, I can tell if my son is doing too many video games, his routines are off. He's not consistent.
Distracted.
He's airbrained, like he can't function. He's not able to finish any of his assignments.
Yes.
And every time I ask him something, it's like, oh, why?
Yes. Man, you must live in my house.
I know it. I know it.
My journal.
I know it. It's so important. I'm telling you, it's one of those things where you're like, who are you? Yes. You know, because I'm telling you, the technology, it overtakes their brain. You know, their brain is still developing. Yes. So while they're taking all of this in, it's constant imagery that's going on, you know, just spitfiring, and it's too much for them. And it starts to take a toll on their psyche,
it's sensory
on their emotions, on their interaction with their siblings, with the family. And so, no, there's boundaries. You have to stop. So my children, they're like, my oldest son, he's able to go to bed at 11:30. I don't mind him staying up a little later because he's usually quiet and he's chill. But the younger ones go to bed at 8:30. And any type of games stops at 6:30. Anything you're doing, that stops at 6, 2 hours before. You can't be doing all of that because it affects their sleeping as well. And they need a proper sleeping to grow. Yes. So those things are very important to take into consideration. Even though, like I said, even though my son is able to go to 11:30, to bed at 11:30, he's not, at 6:30, the games are over. Yeah. Especially because he plays older kid games. So he's not like he's just playing the younger games. He plays older kids. I'm like, no, you can stop that. And during the week, we don't do all of that. So I'm like, you can have Fridays, like on Thursdays and Fridays, I let him do the video games. Usually Saturdays, we like observe the Sabbath, or we just chill or relax as a family. So that we're not doing all the things on Saturday. But for the most part, like all week long, you don't need video games. There's stuff to do outside. You love to play basketball. We have tons of animals.
You're a mindful, and I love that you brought up this mindful mothering. I really, you will have to tell people how to get in touch with you for this, because a mindful mother or parent will allow their children to create boundaries or teach their children to create boundaries. But a stressed out parent who's living on autopilot, they're like, go get out of my face and do something that I don't have to help you with.
Right. And then that's the thing. And that's why so many of us were like, I taught him that. You didn't teach him that. You tossed him into it.
You told him. You didn't practice it.
Right. Training requires you to sit aside your child and show them. Like my children, when I required them to do something and the expectations aren't met, then it's like, okay, well, we're going to shut this down and we're going to try again tomorrow. Yeah. And they're like, but I gave you these directions. You did the opposite. I'm not mad at you, but what we're not going to do is continue. We're shutting it down. Try tomorrow.
Consequences that teaches them.
That's it. We're going to try tomorrow, because I'm not going to continue to keep talking to you, because that's going to stress me out.
Oh man, you're talking about my life.
Yeah, it's going to stress me out. And then on top of that, I need to show you, because that's the thing. I realize that a lot of parents, they do the whole, I'm going to take this away from you for a week. Yes. But in that week, it doesn't give them the opportunity to try again, to practice the skill.
It teaches them what not to do.
Right. It doesn't practice the skill. They need to practice the skill. So if the skill is, I need you to learn patience, every day they need to practice patience. Yes. If you take that away from them for the week, they're not practicing patience.
Exactly.
So they're missing out on the opportunity to learn.
They're eliminating the lesson because it's more convenient.
Exactly.
And that's not mindful. They don't even know they're doing that. Parents don't even mean to do that. I don't think.
They don't. And so that's the thing. If the whole idea is you need to be off the game by 6:30, and I'm leaving it to you because you got an alarm in front of you and you can figure that out. If it's now 6:45, it's like, oh, well, then I guess tomorrow you won't have the game, and then we'll try it on the third day. We're going to try it again. Yeah. Because it's giving you that pause for a day. You can't have it. And then the next day you're going to try again until you get it right. Till you understand, I need to set that alarm for 6:25. Yeah. Yeah. So I got at least 5 minutes to get myself together. So I'm off by 6:30.
I love this. I love what you're talking about. And I honestly think that if parents can model that behavior as well as tell that behavior, our children will catch it and it would just be a way of life for
But
them.
you gotta think, we mess up all the time. You know, let's say you're trying to lose weight. You're trying to lose weight and you're like, I'm not gonna eat this today. And then all of a sudden you just ate all the things.
You eating it, the whole sleeve.
And do you realize how you self-sabotage yourself by saying, you know what, forget it. In the next 3 weeks, you didn't do it at all.
Yes.
It's like, why do that? Because now you're still at square one. How about giving yourself grace and the opportunity tomorrow to try again?
Try again. We need to model the things that we want to teach children and not just say, do what I say, not what I do.
And I'm big on trying again. Like I said, if I made some rice and I wasn't paying attention, so I burnt my rice by accident.
Burnt that rice.
And my kids were not happy. They were not happy with me, but I told them, and it's so funny because in general, I would just, like the next day we would have like something else to eat. But I said, no, I'm gonna make this tomorrow. I'm gonna try again. And they were laughing at me because I said, no, I need you to see that, yeah, we make mistakes, but we can always try again.
That's it. That's
we can always try again. Now, typically, we probably wouldn't have had rice those 2 days, but tomorrow I'm gonna try again because I messed up. And I'm gonna give you the opportunity to have good rice because I messed up with the rice.
That's me and my vegan recipes. I'm like, all right, Boots, like it was funky now, put some salsa on it, but like I'm going to perfect this recipe.
I'm gonna make it better.
I do. It just take me a little while.
Right. And I mean, I tell you, when we start to give ourselves grace, we're able to give our children's grace, and we're able to give our partners and our spouses grace too. And then it creates an environment that's harmonious. You have a happy home. And I love that my house is the type of home it is because I've created an environment that is a palace of peace for me.
Yes.
I enjoy being here. My children enjoy being here. My husband enjoys being here because we're not sitting here taking tally of all the mistakes everyone made. We're looking at each other and saying, okay, and you require grace. Like for instance, before I came into the meeting, I had to talk to my 7 and 4-year-old because they like to bicker. They, you know, that's their favorite pastime, to tell each other what to do and what not to do. Like they're each other's parent. And so I explained to them, I said, what are the 3 rules while mommy is in her interview? And so my son was like, he was like, speak quietly, play nicely, and speak quietly, play nicely, and do not come upstairs. Yeah. And so I told him, I said, no, I didn't say do not come upstairs. I said stay downstairs.
They added that.
Yeah, I said stay downstairs. Stay downstairs. And I explained to him the difference between stay downstairs and do not come upstairs. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you what not to do. Yeah. This is not a controlling environment. I'm not trying to control you. I'm giving you a clear direction. Because do not, when you put do not in front of something, the child has to think, do not do this. As opposed to just saying, sit down, saying do not sit down, do not run. It's like,
say walk.
Right, walk, you know? So instead of saying, do not come upstairs, I said, stay downstairs. Yes. Stop yelling.
When I was in school, I learned that, like, kids don't know, like, at least little people, they don't really know the do not and don't.
Yeah, it confuses them.
It's confusing.
It's confusing, and they have to take so many, it's like too many directions at one time. And then they go and do the opposite of what you actually want them to do. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not telling you do not come upstairs. I said stay downstairs. Yeah.
You know,
I didn't say don't scream. I said speak quietly. Yeah. They're like, oh, and I didn't say be nice. I said play kindly. Play kindly. That's it.
Valid.
Like, oh,
I love
they did it. They did it because they're quiet right now.
Look, it worked. Knock on wood.
It worked.
One more question, Vallin, and then I'm gonna let you tell us how to get in touch with you, and we're gonna wrap this up. Vallin, for those who don't feel as empowered as we are, like for those who are at the beginning of their journey, and they're like, my people think I'm crazy. I don't really have a lot of support right now, but I know that I'm supposed to do something different in public school. What is your advice to them, or what do you recommend?
I would say for certain, one, tap into your resources in your community. Figure out what's out there. I think a lot of times we start homeschooling and we think, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this done. Until you realize it's extremely lonely and extremely hard if you don't know anyone else. Even if it's just one other mother, one other person, just make it a priority to tap into the resources in your environment. Mm-hmm. Figure out what is going on, because a lot of, especially the southern states, a lot of the southern states do have a lot of homeschool opportunities and events and things that are going on. Even though we're in COVID right now, there's still so many Zoom platforms and even like circles where you could sit and talk to someone. And getting yourself
Co-op.
get yourself into that mindset that I'm going to locate some support for myself. We have to be in a position of intention.
Yes.
When we're deciding to homeschool, we have to say to ourselves, I am being intentional about what I want and desire for my family. And in order to stay in an intentional mindset, you have to be putting yourself in position to be able to be supported, because it becomes very hard to do things on your own.
Yes.
That as humans, we were not meant to do everything by ourselves. We're not
islands to ourselves. We
right.
People of color, we are a community kind of people. That's just that.
Right. And so it's so important that we tap into, okay, what is it that I really desire for my family? And what is it that I really want for my children? And let me go locate those resources.
Yeah.
And then when you find the resources, take it easy. Give yourself some time. A lot of times you think you find a resource like, okay, well, this is going to work. No, that may not work. You may need a fine-tuned approach. Maybe it's another group that may work, or another person that may work.
Yes.
You may find someone you think you vibe with, and then you realize you don't vibe with that group very much. You know, it takes time. It takes time, because it's similar to when you're trying to make friends and you're younger. You figure out what works and what doesn't work, and there's no judgment on it.
Yeah.
Just because one situation didn't work out doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that group of people or that person, or nothing that didn't work for you and your family. Let's find something else. But see, that's how getting the opportunity to bounce around, to meet different people, to talk to different people, ask them questions.
To do
yes,
that.
And asking questions. I know a lot of times people don't like to ask questions because they're afraid they'll look stupid.
Yes,
you be okay with looking stupid. It's okay, because you don't know. And if you don't know,
we all new homeschooling parents, unless you grew up in a family that homeschooled, we all were like a deer in headlight, not knowing which way to go, but
which way to go, what to do.
Like we need to go somewhere else, you know.
And I would say, talk to these people, but then trust yourself. If this person's saying, oh, I teach like this, and we have this structure, we have this, that's great. But that may not work for your home, considering, like, for instance, I have 4 kids and I teach them, you have 1 child. What I do could work in certain areas, but it won't work in all, because I have more children.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't make sense to have this expectation that you're going to do how I do it. No.
And one size fits all. Right. And that's a lot of why I like this conversation and what you bring to it. Because it's like,
take what you need, your way. Leave the rest. That's it. And you can take so much from different conversations and formulate who you are and your authenticity in your homeschooling.
I literally,
so that's really important.
Pull from different sources.
Yeah, and then you find out what really works for you. You may think that a curriculum does work, a curriculum may not work. And that's another thing. I would say the last thing I'd like to say is give yourself the opportunity to realize that homeschooling will not always have to be forever for every child.
Right.
I have 4 children. Every child has a different personality. Like my eldest son, he doesn't even care about going to high school. He's like, I'll learn from home. He's like, he wants to do dual enrollment in college and in high school at the same time. He was like, I want to do volunteer work. I want to, travel. That's what he wants to do. He's like, I'm not interested in going to college.
Yes.
I'm going to get my degree and my high school diploma at the same time. That's what he wants. I mean, that's where he's at right now. And I told him, if your mind changes, I'm still making sure he has all the credits necessary. If he changes his mind and decides he wants to do something different.
But he's choosing.
Right. And I appreciate that, because he's making a choice. So he, in general, no, he's never probably going to go to school. Right. He might not. I mean, he's my most likely child never to go to school, because he doesn't care about it. Now, my 7-year-old, he is the type of child that it's either or. Like, it's a toss-up. Like, he's like, look, if you send me, I'm a thrive. And he's that type. Like, you put him in any situation, he'd be out.
You're not against him going to school when him, if he decided to go to school at 10 for 5th grade, I would let him go. You would let him? Good.
I would let him go. And that's another thing. Like, I also am into letting my child see what's out there to decide if they want to come back. Like, for a brief moment, my son, when he was 10, he was acting up a bit. Didn't want to do his schoolwork. I was like, okay, well, you're going to leave, because you can't stay here doing this. We have other children here, and we're not going to let that be the tone of how children act when we're homeschooling. Yeah, so I sent him to like a private program for like 3 months. So I have to wake up every day.
Amen.
I was like, yeah. He was like, it's raining.
Amen.
He was like, it's still outside. Yeah, it is. You're right. Get up. Come on.
Yeah.
And so after those 3 months, he was like, Mommy,
little appreciation.
I'm good. I was like, okay. He came back home. Ever since, for the last 2 years, I haven't had a single problem with attitude or anything.
The world woke him up.
Right, because the truth is, and that's even in those situations, trust in yourself. You know your kid. but you also require in your home to be respected and honored as a parent. And
That's
as someone who's diving in and giving your all, you have to present boundaries for your children. You can't be acting up and pulling your feet, dragging, acting like you ain't got no sense. And we've got 3 other children like, oh, you can do that, then I can do that. Now you got chaos in your house.
Set boundaries, but also establish the boundary by creating your own boundaries. Set boundaries for them that the house adheres to.
Right.
Everyone gets up and eats and does these things and has
everyone. And if you can't be a part of this, then maybe you don't need to be a part of it. Maybe we can put you out there for a little while. You like that? Oh no. Okay, come back because we love you. Come on.
We know how to talk to our children to motivate them, don't we?
Right. Like now come back home because I got you. Even my 1-year-old, like at the end of the day, she always wants to sit in my lap and I hold her all day. But I told her, I said, Gia, at the end of the day, mommy's sitting by herself. You can sit beside me.
All I'm saying, touched out.
And she's like, I said, you sit beside me. And I told her, I said, if you can't sit beside me, you can't sit with me at all. She don't like that. So she's like, she get up and she set a little butt next to me and snuggle in. I was like, oh, that's good. That's what you're saying.
And listen, when you challenge them, they rise to the occasion.
Absolutely.
We have to stop parenting out of like our woundedness. We're like, oh, nobody helped me.
Fear.
I want to.
Right. I don't want them to feel rejected. I don't want them to feel hurt. They not
empowered when you hold them to a higher stage.
Because if I can tell her at 14 months, you have to sit beside mommy between 6 and 8 because I'm resting.
Yes.
This is where you're going to sit because she needs to understand her own boundaries. If she says, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm not interested in that. Well, I need my own time. Then that needs to be respected. My 7-year-old, he'll be like, I want to play by myself right now. The 4-year-old, but I want to play with you. I said, He wants to play by himself.
Honor that.
Respect that.
Yeah.
You go play by yourself. And then when he's ready to play with you, he'll let you know. That's it.
And this is a part of homeschooling. Beautiful, Vallin.
It's so beautiful because the truth is it's teaching them to respect themselves, to honor themselves, to honor the things that bring them joy. Yes. And that's the same thing I'm doing for myself. Honor the things that bring me joy.
That's it.
Doing the things that make me feel most alive and allowing them to see me do that and say, hey, Ma, I enjoy you. I love art. So I love to paint. I love abstract art. I love painting. I love music. The harp is my favorite. I'm actually trying to start learning how to play the harp now because
it's so angelic.
Right. I love the harp. So it's like stuff like that. Or my animals. Like I like being outside with my animals and my kids are just like, Mommy, you a mess.
Earth mama.
But they love it. And they're like, Ma, I can help you. My 7-year-old, he's like, Ma, I love helping you. But he loves helping me in the things that I like doing.
Yeah.
And it's because he's like, oh, that brings her happiness. I want to be a part of her happiness. So when he's doing something he loves, he likes to play like chemistry games. It's like this game that you like mix chemicals together, or whatever. He just wants me to sit there and watch him. Yeah. He just wants me to watch him, and I'll watch him. He's like, Mommy, look what I did. I'm like, oh, that's so great. It makes him happy.
Yes,
just me sitting there.
To watch them. They
just
love
sitting there, and it's so important because it's like, yes, we're the adult. But there's still so many things about us as mothers and women that we want for ourselves. Yeah. And letting your children see you thrive in that environment, whether it is doing speaking engagement, whether it is that, you work from home, or maybe it's like you starting a business, whatever it is, you deserve to have that. Yeah. And you deserve to let your children watch you thrive in it. Yeah. So they can say, look at me, look at Mommy. I could do that too.
And I am deserving. If Mommy is deserving.
Right. There's no, I don't know where we've gotten this notion that once you become a mother, you need to just erase all parts of yourself and just be this weird, empty vessel.
You will come back and talk to us on another listen, yes, we're gonna talk.
That just isn't it. That ain't it.
That self-sacrificing.
Right, that martyr. No, we're not doing that. I can tell you this, us Black women ain't doing that either. And I'm telling all the mamas out there, like, stop it. If you want my help, come inbox me. Let me talk to you. But we're not doing that no more. Because your children deserve to see you thrive.
Tell us how to find you. Give us your details. Tell us how to find you. I'm going to leave it in the description. I'm going to add it to all the descriptions of these lives. Tell us where we can find you.
So you can find me at vallinbingley.com. You can also find me VALLIN BINGLEY.com. You can also find me at Vallin D Bingley.
Vallin D Bingley.
On Instagram.
And
you can follow me at Vallin Bingley on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Oh, you got a .com too. So that's probably where most people will go. on Facebook. We got some comments. Raynell, she says, great info, ladies. Tynella Hall, Chef Ty. She says,
Chef.
love you both. Keith Hickson says, love this. Zebra or Zebra?
Zebra, yeah.
She says, it's me, Jalen?
Yeah.
Jalen, I'm Vallin's son. Love this.
Oh, yeah, he's with grandma.
Keith Hickson says, this is mom. Great stuff, or something like that. This is, I don't know. And then somebody's waving. So we have a couple of comments, and hopefully people
Hey, Ray. Hey, everyone. Yes, I'm so grateful, everyone. Yeah, I really want, you know, homeschooling is really important to me. It's one of the things that, like I said, I set my mind on that before I even put my son in school. It was something that I just knew it had to be right, and it had to work because it was put in me. And I really think that when women see that their seeds have been planted in them and things have been placed in you, it's for a purpose. And you need to know just walk in your purpose. And that's for your children. That's for your businesses. That's for your livelihood. That's for even choosing a partner in your life. Know your position in your life and be confident in that.
Know yourself.
And don't let anybody knock you off your square, because people will say all types of things. And you'll even feel like you don't belong and you don't fit and it's not right. The truth is, don't worry about that. You weren't placed here to appease the world and the masses. That's not what you were here to. You was here for a purpose. And your children, when God blessed you with them, he planted a purpose in you. And it's time for you to go ahead and reap your harvest. So continue to cultivate those children so that you can reap your harvest, because the truth is you're doing all the things you're being told to do. And anybody who's obedient to what they're being told to do in their purpose, they're going to thrive no matter what. There's no way you can't.
That's law.
That's it. That is it.
You reap what you sow.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
I love this.
Thank you so much.
You gotta come back too. You gotta definitely come back and
I love
get some other points, because I know there's much to talk about after 12 years of homeschooling.
There's so much about parenting. Parenting's an interesting thing, and you know what? Everybody does it in an amazing way, because I'm telling you, every time you have a child and you see that child, there is nothing in any mother that says, I don't want the best for you. Even the ones that have gone through the worst of worst, you really do want the best for your child.
You want better for your child.
Right. And you have to trust that mothers, even when they don't know, they're really trying their best. They really are. And whatever I can offer to help, to push you forward and continue to feel confident in who you are as a mother, I would love to do that for every mother that's out there. So thank you so much for having me.
Love it. Thank you for the energy you brought to this. Ryan, did you have anything you wanted to say in closing?
Ryan's a super mom. She's a superhero with them twins.
Listen to me. Your mic is off, babe. Your mic is off. Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on. She's like, oh man.
I'm having a full-blown baby fit. Sorry, I should be more involved.
It's okay.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Vallin, we're going to go ahead and stop the live stream now. Guys, definitely drop your comments, whether you are watching this live or on replay. And, you know, check us out at our next one. And definitely come back and hear Vallin next time she's on as well. We're going to
I would love to be on again. I'll see you guys.
All right. Peace. I'm going to stop the live stream, and then we're going to keep going with our Zoom.